Beyond the Pillion is recorded on the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, and we would like to pay our respects to elders, past and present.
Welcome to Beyond the Pillion. My name is Kahiwa Sabaya. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the chaotic one.
And I'm Mark Drexler with he, him pronouns, and I want to put the E in community.
What?
It's about excitement. I'm trying to be excited. Everyone says I'm too boring, so I was trying to lighten it up and just be a little bit,
bring some personality to
bring
today's conversation. Today we are talking about how to connect with others in the motorcycling community as you are getting started, but also as you are moving on to bigger bikes, better things, and hopefully staying riding.
So coming up today, we have an interview with one of the two amazing women who run the Women2Wheels SA group on Facebook, Mary Knights, aka Mary Knightsrider.
Yes, but before we get to that, and it is a very exciting conversation, why do we care about community and connection anyway? What's the point? You're the only one on the motorbike unless you've got a pillion. What's the point of community, Mark?
Very good question. So for those who are just getting into motorcycling or who are thinking about it or have very recently started, you've probably worked out that motorcycling and joining the community can be really overwhelming. There are many different sub-communities as you are trying to find people and find connections within the community. Even thinking about the different types of riders, you have people who are into off-road riding or adventure riding, people who like cruises, people who are into road racing on super sport bikes, people who like touring, and of course, let's not forget our old favourite of CB125E riders.
What's that supposed to mean? I was a CB125E rider.
And look at you now.
In my own
and look at you now.
Community.
Yes, yeah, you are.
You mean a subculture of Uber Eats riders, that's what you mean.
Oh, can we say that?
Although, to be fair, though, I think a lot of Uber Eats delivery riders I've seen now are more on the scooters, actually, rather than the CB125s.
Yes,
I think
the scoot is on the rise. The scoot is definitely on the rise. Anyway.
Yes. But yes, making friends in the community I think is really important, and particularly early on. This can be really helpful for new riders to build that sense of belonging. Can help make it more fun. I know for me, one of the biggest things was that sense of imposter syndrome and feeling like I'm the only one in the world who struggled with a particular thing. And then through various different community groups and connections, find out, oh, no, you are just like everybody else. It's going to be fine. And being able to learn things to kind of help you improve faster. And I think another part was just being able to stay engaged and have that motivation, big part of that motivation to move past the really tricky parts about learning how to ride and how to be a better motorcyclist.
Totally. Yep. It's a deep and very broad pool that you are jumping into as you jump into the world of being a motorcyclist. So what are your options then when you are trying to find that sort of connection with people so that you can get all the benefits that Kahiwa just mentioned? Kahiwa, what are some of the options that people have got?
So as I think our interview with Mary will kind of show, social media is a really important way, a really valuable way. So this includes things like Facebook groups, online forums, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, but they're still a thing where people can share all kinds of different information, whether that's tips or experience or ask questions and helpful things as well, such as Women2Wheels South Australia, the Facebook group. There's often some really interesting kind of group rides that you can go and join. And when you turn up, opportunities at the beginning or at the end to meet people, make new connections. And often you find these out through online communities. Mark, you often talk about things like friend networks, and you go on rides with quite a few different people in your extended friend network, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Just finding friends who have motorbikes is a really good way of keeping in touch with friends. So I have some friends that I rarely see unless we go out on a ride together, and it's a great excuse to, firstly, for me to say, oh, yep, I haven't seen such and such, one of a number of friends that I have in my life. Yep, okay, let's get together and go for a ride. And also, very often, one of us will sort of put a word out to one or two others and say, hey, do you want to come along? So it's both catching up with old friends as well as meeting new people. It's just a good excuse.
And I think particularly for those of us who are maybe more introverted, it can be a really nice way to socialise without actually having to interact with people. Hot tip there. But another important place can also be, your local bike store, or places where you either might purchase or get your bike serviced, or possibly purchase accessories and other things as well. Mark, do you want to talk about your experience from that local bike store perspective?
Yeah, at least if I look at first-hand experience from where I work, then we all ride. And most of us have been riding for a long time, but there's also a mix in there. We do have a couple of people who are really new to riding. And so firstly, you've got a bunch of people who are typically working in an environment like that because we all ride bikes, because that's why we work there. And also, our store has a monthly ride, which is very informal. It's not a formal organised ride. We just meet at a particular time and place once a month, and just as a group of interested people who want to go out for a nice ride, we'll all go for a bit of a cruise. It's completely informal, unofficial, but it's a great chance to just get together and with a bunch of like-minded people. So check in with wherever your local bike store is. Go and ask them if they do it. Even if they don't do anything formal, then if they're any good, then they should also be hooked into some of the other regular rides that might be going on that they know of in your area.
Now, one thing we haven't spoken about, and possibly I think we've personally had some mixed experience, but it's worth kind of talking about, are the more formal club, like membership clubs, which tend to be really around either like a brand of a motorcycle or an era of a motorcycle. They can be really easy ways to go and meet people. I think in my personal experience, I have struggled to find other women motorcyclists in groups and clubs like that. But that's not to say that that'll be your experience as well. So it's always worth giving it a go and seeing who's there at least once. You never quite know what's going to happen.
Yep, very true, very true. So today on the show, we have one of the admins of Women2Wheels, the South Australian Facebook group, that Kahiwa was lucky enough to have a chat with this week and talk about their experiences as a motorcyclist and building community. So I think at this point, over to you, Kahiwa, with the interview.
Welcome along. I am very excited today to be talking with Mary Knights, aka Mary Knightsriders, from the Women2Wheels South Australia group. Mary, thank you so much for coming along. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you for inviting me, first of all. This is rather exciting and always fun to talk about motorbikes. So fantastic. So a bit about myself. Well, let's see. Where shall we start? Obviously, people might say, what is Mary Knightsriders? Well, I like the name Knightsriders. I'll give you a little spiel about that. Obviously, Knights, I've got a Knights with an S on the end, and I wanted a bit of a groovy pseudonym, so I went with Knightsriders. And, of course, everybody said, oh, is it Kit Knightsriders from the old Knights Rider thing? I said, no, I'm a plural, because my husband's rides, I ride, we're Knightses with an S, so we'll have to be Knightsriders. So we came up with this.
That makes sense.
So
yep.
So it's kind of a cool name. I think everybody knows me as that, particularly on Facebook, because it's on Facebook. So I use it as my freelance writing name as well, because I think it just stands out a little bit more. But that's how I've come across that little name. So about myself, I'm a passionate motorcyclist, and I think I've been riding, let's just have a guess here, probably about 20 years now. I think I would have started way back in 95, somewhere around there, and started off on a little cruiser bike. Had no idea what I was doing. I had no knowledge about bikes, okay? So did not understand motorcycles at all. So and all I knew, I could ride a bicycle, so I had that sense of balance, but motorbikes do have some other kind of requirements, like the throttle and the clutch and all that sort of stuff. But I got on it and I thought, wow, this is a bit of fun. I think I really enjoy riding these. So that's how I started, was riding motorcycles was back then. And of course, since then, all those years on, I've actually expanded my enjoyment in the motorcycling by trying some dirt riding. I had to go at track days. I do a lot of road riding. I love touring. So I don't know whether it's associated with growing older, though, because when I started off, I was rather gung-ho. Let's get on the sports bike. I want to be Mick Doohan. I want to ride through Gorge Road and other famous roads that in South Australia, flat out. But as I've gotten older, I've begun to smell the roses, if you like, and go, oh, if you go on a trail, you can stop and you can look at the scenery and all the bushland. And then when you go touring, you can stop and have coffees and sort of relax and eat wonderful food and see all these wonderful things. So I've slowed down. I call it slowing down a little, but I think it's for the better, because now I really get to enjoy the other aspects of motorcycling, not just riding fast through the hills or doing track days, which was all exciting. There's much more fun now. So that's how I got into motorcycling anyhow. So what else?
Oh, fantastic. Sounds like, all about just kind of appreciating the different types of riding and all the different things that different styles of riding can kind of bring and enjoy. I'm wondering, for you, it's been a little while, but you're still really involved in kind of helping people get into and stay riding. What do you think is like your number one tip for someone looking to get into riding right at that beginning?
This is quite a broad question, really, because there's so many pointers. People say, think of this, think of that, do this, do that, buy this bike, buy that bike. Oh, you're short, you can only have a little scooter. Oh, you're tall, you could ride that. So many questions. And so I think the thing I always want them to think of is get the right gear, all the time. I think that is the key thing, because a lot of them don't understand the importance of that right at the beginning. They just want to do budget. They go, oh, I've got some sand shoes, I've got some gardening gloves, I've got a little cute hoodie. Well, they won't cut the mustard if you fall off. And I think nobody likes to think about falling off, but that should be the first thing in your mind, saying, well, if I fall off, I don't want to be injured. So what do I do to protect myself? So really, the right gear should be the first thing before the fancy motorbike. They want to buy whatever bike they want, but the gear. That would be my first tip. Look at the gear.
Awesome. Thank you. And that's good, because I think in our earlier episodes, we've talked about thinking about the right type of gear when you're looking to get started in buying your first bike, and some examples there. And I think also we talked about it as part of managing risks and how to, ride so that you can actually get back home. And a big part of that, hopefully, is getting back home in one piece. And your gear is a really, really important part of that. So wonderful. Thank you. And one of the things that we really wanted to talk to you about was about the Women2Wheels South Australia group. I know for me personally, when I got started riding, there was really only my partner. I didn't know very many other riders, particularly women riders, and the Facebook group was a really valuable part about finding community and feeling connected and not feeling alone and not feeling silly for having different types of thoughts or fears or worries, but also finding people who can be a bit of an inspiration about where you can get to. So I know that the group's kind of been around for 10 years. Congratulations on the 10-year anniversary. I wondered if you could share a little bit about how you started the group.
Yes, for sure, because this is probably now, this Women2Wheels thing probably takes up most of my time. So yes, how did it start? Well, it was kind of a peculiar start. It just so happened that one evening I went to some sort of, what was it like, sort of a meetup, where two women were traveling around Australia on Kawasaki's. They had a ZX9 and a ZX7 or something like this, and they were both called Mel or something. So they were two women riding around Australia solo, and I went there to meet them, and it just so happened I also met this lady, Tony Barwick, there. And we just got chatting and talking about motorcycles. And she had only just come from Queensland not long ago. So she was basically lived in Queensland, came to South Australia. So she and her husband rode. And she at that time had only just picked up a little 250 just to get along, because she'd had a license a long time, but she just got a bike here in South Australia. So that's how we met. Well, we sort of hit it off. We sort of got, we were sort of same age, same interest, motorcycling. Husbands were sort of got on quite well, the usual sort of chitter-chatter you do when you meet people. So we went riding together, and we said, oh, well, let's go out. And we'd go riding down to Strathalbyn, go to Victor Harbour, whatever it might be. And one day there was already some Facebook groups there, but they were not really happening Facebook pages. They just didn't really want to get involved. They'd sort of put up a post or this or that. And also, we were also of an older group, and so some of the groups were too young for us. I hate to say that, but it's true. They were too young for us, and we thought we're not connecting. They were talking more about, you know, their interests, or only posting now and then. We really actually were into motorbikes, so they weren't really serious motorbike pages. So we said, let's just form a group. We knew some other girls. I actually met them through her. She knew some other girls, and so we said, let's go riding. So to make it easy, we formed a Facebook page to connect, to say, rightio, who's available today, let's go riding. And there was only about 10 of us, and that went on for quite some time, where we had the same 10, and we'd go off to have lunch or rides and do things. Nothing particular, just day rides. But somehow, and I wish I could understand the algorithms of Facebook, somehow
we all?
yeah, one of those development things that, you know, we sort of met other ladies as we went along. Obviously, we met them as we were riding, and we'd say, come and join our page, and that way we can all go riding. And we met some other sort of more notable ladies that had been seasoned riders and actually had connections elsewhere. So sort of slowly, you could say, the network started to spread. And in that time, more girls joined, and we then began to do things such as fundraising rides. So the first thing we ever took on seriously was the pink ribbon ride for the Air Cancer Foundation. And we had, I think, 6 or 5 women who were able to be the committee group. And it was a bit stressful because we'd never done anything like this before, but we did it, and it went off really well. And we had sort of 30 riders turn up. The next time it was 40 riders. Next time it was 50 riders. And we go, my gosh, you know, this is quite intense, you know. So stuff we were learning, because we're just amateurs. So as time went on, that's how the group formed. And so then we decided we needed a logo, and we did the logo like that with the motorbike, and what kind of name. And it just, as you know, it sort of self-perpetuates, and it starts to take on its own identity. And one of the things that was making it really special was that we didn't want it to be a club. We didn't want it to be some kind of group where you had to have a, you know, captain and whatever else. We wanted it to be a place for networking. And we've always stuck to our guns about that, so that women could join the page. They might find friends. They might belong to other groups. It doesn't matter. They may have friends they want to invite in. Great. But they also can make their own rides and things. But we also, as time's gone on, do our own events, because we found that's what they wanted, and it's just grown from there now. And now, as you've probably seen, there's about 1,000 or more women on the page who are purely South Australian riders. So it's amazing. It's amazing how it's gone, and from what was just a little idea to this. and also getting that reputation and recognition by a number of communities, a number of different groups, such as the Motorcycling MRASA, the Motorcycle Riders Association, and we've been on their Moto chat forums and we've been interviewed and that sort of thing. It's just taken off. It's amazing.
Yeah. It is. It's so good. And that's one of the things I noticed was, because you do a welcome post for new members when they join and the type of bike that they've got or if they're looking for one. And I regularly see posts about new members every week. And I wondered what do you think has kind of contributed to that growth? You were talking about the momentum and that connection. Is there anything in particular you think is really fueling that growth and women kind of coming together or coming to the group?
Yes, I reckon it's the more readily available smaller motorcycles. If I think back when I started, you had to start on a 250 and then you could go to a 600 or whatever you like. But there was nothing much in the 300, 400, 500cc category. And nearly all the bikes were tall because they were sports bikes or street bikes. And so you only had cruisers. And if you were not a cruiser fan, you were kind of stuck. You sort of really didn't have much choice except scooters or cruisers. Now there's all these fantastic 300, 400cc bikes, 500cc bikes that are sports bikes, street bikes. And they're far more appealing looking, of course. They're much more lighter as well. Yes, girls like it to look nice. So we don't want to be on a rat bike, as they call them, the ones where they're cobbled together. We want a nice looking bike. And like most girls, we like pretty things. So pretty red bikes, pretty blue bikes. And
good colours are important.
And then, if you want to be really cool, design a bike like a Ducati or a BMW or a Harley Davidson. So you want the name. But I think that has been a contributing starting point. And maybe also the marketing perhaps it's a little hard to gauge, but the influencing that's going on in the wider world for women to be on bikes, it's kind of cool. So there is the cool factor that is in there somewhere. Some ride to be cool and some ride to be motorcyclists and some ride purely for commuting. So there's a bit of a spread of the reason why women are taking it up. So it's good as long as they all wear the right gear. Please wear the right gear.
Yes. I fully endorse that. And I know for me, for those who might have listened to the first couple of episodes, a big part of why I started riding was I wanted to look cool. The vision of being a motorcyclist was quite a powerful one. And then you kind of get into it and it's like, actually riding motorbikes is so much fun. And I think that's a really interesting point about the way manufacturers and brands and retailers, I think, are shifting, whether it's a conscious or an unconscious thing, to be more diverse in the options that they have available and the way that they're marketing. I think one of the things that I've really noticed is definitely the growth of options in that 300 to 400cc range.
Yes.
And I think more colours and styles that are less, binary, in terms of here's the normal bikes and here's the one girl bike. We're actually just getting more diversity across a range, which I think opens it up to more people, particularly women who might want to kind of get into it, but maybe don't want to ride a pink thing, but want something that still kind of looks good or something similar. Awesome. One of the things I noticed in the group is the real variety of posts, I think from you in particular and Tony, but also just the members. It's a really wonderful mixture of advice or questions or photos of rides or that come and ride with me kind of posts as well. What do you think is, like, for you, the best thing about running an online group like Women2Wheels South Australia?
I think it allows for me personally to be the frustrated journalist that I am, to speak and write stuff because I love writing. So it's an opportunity for me to share, my enthusiasm of motorcycling, because I like everything about bikes, plus the mechanic side, plus learning and knowing more, because I'm definitely not one that just wants to sit on the bike and ride it. I want to know how it ticks And then when I presented a problem, and I have had my fair share of problems with motorcycles, how do I fix it? And so I'm very much into let me be independent and a bit able-bodied and cluey enough to know what's wrong with the bike if there's a problem. So I think posts are I think strengthened by a number of women there who are very active on the page, and they talk about their experiences. And I think one of the best things that comes out of it is that they are comfortable in talking about their fears and challenges on the page. So there is no feeling of they're going to be laughed at or rubbished for being frightened about something or finding something really hard to do, because they'll suddenly discover a whole bunch of responses will come in going, I have been there too. I've felt that too. Oh, yes, I so get you.
Yep.
So that just makes them feel normal, and that the things that maybe might come easier to some people and maybe not easy to them is okay. They'll get there, and they'll find someone to help them. May even find a couple of girls will say, let's all get together and let's go and practice. Great. That's what we want. So, yes, that is a key thing, I think, on this page, is that whole feeling that you are supported all the time, no matter how good or bad a rider you might think you are. You can ask any kind of question, you can say anything, and it's all welcome.
Absolutely. I know when I first started and posted some questions, or even just, I'm feeling this kind of posts, absolutely had a lot of responses just affirming those feelings and that experience, and, you know, advice around things to try or think about, but also just that confirmation, yep, you're not alone. And that is such a powerful part of community and connection. And I think particularly for women and people socialized as female, you know, there's so much in society that is all about trying to minimize and quieten and dampen and, you know, put us into boxes or into the corners. It's spaces like this that really build that confidence, which is so important to riding, to trying something new, to learning.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful to have a little corner of the internet for women riders, particularly in South Australia, but other places as well, where we can do that.
It is. I'm just so pleased how the interaction that goes on the page is so good, and that it's actually enabled so many to actually let me think how to put that, sprout their wings, basically. If you sort of have seen some of the posts, some of them said, I've just had the most wonderful ride, I've been out on a group ride, I've met some wonderful women, this is the best group ever. They're really wonderful confirmations that what we're trying to achieve on the page, and as Women2Wheels, not just on the page, like we do the events and we do workshops and we do charity rides, we do a lot of other stuff, has paid off to give these women somewhere to go and do this stuff, to enjoy physically the fun of motorcycling with other women riders. And I think that is just such a big win that we never intended that. As I've said to you, it was never the plan. It was just have a little Facebook page and it's just exploded.
Yep.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah, it really has. And definitely seen the workshops for the maintenance, which I think is a really, really important part of seeing that connection to trainers who can do either like the pre-license riding test or in between kind of getting your license and actually getting that confidence onto the road. There's direct support for that, and all of the rides. And one of the things that I noticed about the Women2Wheels South Australia kind of organised rides is you talk through actual group riding skills, which is something I haven't necessarily seen in other places. And having been on group rides with some other groups and groups of people where that doesn't happen. I wondered if you could maybe briefly talk through some of those things, how you approach group rides, or a couple of quick tips about that.
Sure. Definitely. We always do a rider brief, obviously at most rides, but to help the women, particularly, there's always going to be a new person there in the group. And they'll go, I've never done a group ride. What do I do? So you go, right, we're going to talk through it. But we also will act it out. So it actually, as I think I might have mentioned, I'm a bit of a comedian and clown. So I'll actually get Tony and say, you pretend to be the front bike and I'll be the back bike. And this is how we will ride. So we do a visualization of it, not just talk. That really works because it sticks in their head. They have a laugh at the same time, but they go, oh, we understand. So some of the things we'll cover is how to safely ride in formation and giving yourself safe distance to allow yourself to see way ahead and see what's happening in front of you, not just the bike in front of you. That kind of anticipation stuff, which is so important. And not, because that is one of the mistakes I find a lot is people will ride too close. You really need to spread out. The more and more, the faster you go, the more you should spread out to allow for that distance for braking and unplanned things. And then we'll talk about how to safely go through a corner and that you should all just own the line, I call it. Own the corner. Don't worry about what the other person's doing. You should focus on your cornering. So little things like this help them understand that it's okay to have space. It's okay to go slower. We will go slower. We always stick to the speed limit and we'll watch. I'll actually, as the mother hen at the front, because I don't know about other ride leaders. Some ride leaders just shoot off into the sunset. I won't. I'll always be looking a lot in my mirrors, and they say Mary is always looking in her mirrors because I want to know everybody's behind me and they're okay. And if I can't see our Women2Wheels pink high-vis vests, because we wear pink high-vis vests, which makes us stand out from any other motorcycle group, because fellas won't wear high-vis pink vests. So you can't make a mistake. It's a Women2Wheels ride. That little pink dot in the front or the pink dot at the back makes such a big difference for me when I'm looking back and go, yes, I can see the tail end at back there looking after everyone. So we do some of those things, but we talk about your riding position on the road and your riding line, things like this. And then we have the system that we put in place to make sure if there's someone that has to stop, how we connect and contact. And we'll even put riders ride floaters, if you like, or sort of people with pink vests on through the group if it's a big group, or even break the group up just so that everybody feels safe. But it's nicest when I can keep them all together, and that's part of the fun rather than just disappearing and looking back and going, there's nobody behind me. What fun's that? The whole idea is they want me as their leader, so I want to demonstrate also good riding habit. So I'll be out the front there doing that and helping those who may be new to feeling comfortable about following my lines, because that's actually important. So I want to be a skilled rider at the front as well. So I think that's sort of the key things that we talk about in terms of it. But the best part is actually visually watching us do examples of it in a humorous way. And that sticks in your head. You can ask any of the girls there and say, what does Mary and Tony do when they actually do a ride brief? Oh, they do this great comedy skit. You should watch it.
And I think what I hear about that is, an opportunity, particularly for those who might be new to riding. There's a lot to benefit from a group ride like that. We've got the opportunity to connect in with other motorcyclists and make some new friends, and see some new bikes, which is always exciting and inspiring. Maybe I can upgrade to one like that, or maybe that's just me.
No, not true.
But particularly to be able to ride with people who have more experience, to be able to follow those lines, to see the habits and the way that they prep themselves, the gear they wear, the way they ride, the way they're thinking about others, that I think is really, really valuable as well. And then that's the difference between, for me, and it sounds like for you as well, going on a group ride versus going on a ride with a couple of other people and you kind of end up getting there together. The point of a group ride is to be a group.
Yes.
And to experience that all together, which I think is really magical. And I've also seen those posts in the group about everyone just having an absolute ball. And I know the recent International Female Ride Day rides were quite popular. Even with the weather, everyone looked like they were having an absolute blast.
Yes.
I was so sad to miss them.
Oh, yes. It's a shame you missed it. It was a really good ride. And again, I'd also gone and done a bit of a recce of this because we'd never been there, just to make sure the roads were okay, because I knew there was roadworks. You know what? And that was great because I knew where we were going and how safe it was, and everybody was invited. And I even tried to attempt to invite outsiders of Women2Wheels who were maybe not on the page, because not everybody's on the page. And so I put it on our public page saying, if you want to come along, just get in contact and join us. But we were happy with the group we had. We had quite a sizable number. They had a great ride. Some of them had never been on a ferry, because we, of course, went to Bow Hill and went to the Bow Hill General Store.
Got the ferry over.
Yes, and they said, we've never been on a ferry. I've never taken my motorbike on a ferry before. I said, well, this is going to be fun. It's not worrying. It's fun. And sure enough, they got on it and they said, this is so cool. Never done this before.
And what an important skill to have learnt as well, like how to set your bike up, how to balance it on and a surface that might be unfamiliar or a bit unstable. What a great opportunity to learn that too.
Yes, and before they got on the ferry, I gave them a little prep and said, when you get on the ferry, this is what you do with your bike. You know, don't do this. Put the side stand down.
Awesome.
Keep it in gear. Lean it on the side stand. Don't try and sort of hold it up in case the thing moves. You never know. And so that made it, they knew what to do with their bike. So they were all okay for the ferry movement itself. So, yes. And so that they came home and they said, that was the best. That was so much fun. And we had nice food, you know, and all the rest. So
that is also important.
Yes.
I'm all about the
food stops are critical on a women's ride. We think about where we're going to have food. Yes. And coffee. Yes.
So it sounds to me like groups like Women2Wheels South Australian, and there are others across Australia and across the world as well, provide a lot of significant benefits. We're talking about opportunities to learn, opportunities to bond, to be validated and seen, to share experiences, to network and build community. I'm wondering your thoughts on for anyone maybe trying to find or build community of other women riders in the area. Maybe they're in South Australia, maybe they're not. Do you have any advice around what they might be able to do to find community?
Well, I think social media is a real biggie at the moment for this, and yes, as you've mentioned, there is other women's riding groups available. Some are Australia-wide, some are international, but we're the only South Australian-focused group, and we've kept it that way specifically so that if they're looking for that connection, hopefully they can sort of search. You know, it just depends how easy it is to search on the internet for groups, try and connect with another rider. Some of them actually meet riders in the middle of the road, and what we do, I should say, is any women who've met me, I hand them a Women2Wheels business card, because we've got those, and stickers and other things. And I go, if you see a lady rider and you get a chance, hand her that. And so it's got, find us on Facebook and our Gmail address and all those things, so they can actually find us. And luckily, the dealerships will be quite happy for us to leave our little business cards on their counter. They disappear quickly, apparently. So that might be also where new riders are coming from. So some of them are coming purely from going into a motorbike shop and seeing the little business card there and taking it away and then coming and finding us on Facebook. So that's probably my best way of networking. I know for sure some of the dealerships are quite supportive and will tell them about it, or motorcycle business-related businesses. And others are through the actual Rider Safe training. Some of the instructors there mention it and say, if you want a good support group as a woman rider, go and join up with Women2Wheels. So that's really great. That means we've got some respect.
That's great.
Yes, we've got some.
Yep.
They believe in us, as in they say this is a responsible group. They do a lot of good things. They help you out as a new rider. And if you're a new rider coming through the training, go and join up here. You'll learn a lot. You'll get the help you need about bikes or gear or learning, or headsets or helmets or whatever it might be. So yes, so far so good. That's how we're getting the message out there.
Fantastic. So that sounds like, having a look on social media, talking to your dealership or wherever you might have purchased a bike or get a bike serviced, talking to the stores where you might buy your gear, and looking for places like RiderSafe where you might get licensing or accreditation or training opportunities, just keeping an eye out or an ear out for either groups but also possibly people. I know when I did my RiderSafe training, I think there might have been one or two other women and over across the whole weekend, which is a little bit disappointing, but is what it is. As we kind of come towards the end of our time together, I wonder, do you have any ideas about what we can do collectively to try and get more women riding bikes? Or what's something that you're trying to do, I suppose, in addition to the group?
Well, that's kind of interesting. I'm sort of seeing, as I think we've covered it in a way, that it's becoming a trend to want to ride a bike. So YouTube and things like that are certainly getting that influence out there that riding a motorcycle is accessible now. So I'm sort of seeing there's those that are like in a family who have grown up with bikes, and so it's just second nature. Well, I'm going to get a bike. I'm going to ride a bike. Then there's people like me who've never had anyone in their family that rode motorcycles, and I just decided I'm going to go and ride a bike. So no support around me, if you like, that way. But I went off and did it. So it seems to me that I think the way it's actually garnering women, if you like, is the fact that they will know someone who has a motorcycle. There is someone in their world that has a bike, and now is more likely to know some female in their world that rides a bike, and that's how it seems to be growing. I think it's actually doing it itself. It's actually happening a lot more. So what I mostly want to focus on is retaining them, keeping them riding, not giving up on the first 6 months and going, oh, it's all too hard, or I've had a scare, because it is true, we get scary moments. I can't go back on the road. It's where I can help and go, it's okay. You will get over this. Let's go through things. Let's find a way to help you put that in a perspective and that sort of thing. So there are riders who've had some nasty accidents and things, and that's unfortunate, but they've gotten back in the saddle and they've gotten over that, and they're glad they did, because they say, oh yeah, motorcycling is what keeps me sane. It's my therapy, that sort of stuff. So that's the good stuff. So I think it's actually happening.
Absolutely.
It's happening without me doing anything extra. So I'm working on keeping them there.
Fantastic. That confidence kind of building and recouping is a really important step. And I think what you've kind of said is that classic thing about you can't be what you can't see. And it sounds like one of the things that we can do to get more people riding and staying riding is to be visible, to post about it. And I think particularly being ordinary people riding bikes, I think there's historically, and when I first started riding, it felt like the women motorcyclists were either gorgeous supermodels who were not me, or they were, amazing athletes crossing, multiple islands and super long adventure riders who are incredible, but also not me. And that, I think, was one of the great things about the group was just finding ordinary women.
Yes.
Ordinary people, yes, they might be doing really cool and fun and inspiring things, but it was certainly stuff that felt achievable as someone kind of coming in a way that, super incredible track riding and adventure trail riding and endurance riding requires a considerable amount more effort and time to be able to be achievable.
Yes, I actually agree with you totally there, because people put people up on pedestals, as you've just described, and YouTube is great, but it's also it can make you feel inadequate, because you see these videos where people are doing things like females doing stunt riding, or they're doing gymkhanas on bikes, or they're racers and they're doing crazy speed through the Isle of Man TT, and you go, wow, I'll never be like that. Well, you don't need to be like that. You just enjoy motorcycling. You're here, there's a road, there's a bike. You don't have to be thinking you have to have that skill level to ride a bike. You just got to be competent.
Yeah.
That's all, safe and competent. And that's where people like me and Tony can go with these sort of girls and say, let's go for a ride. We can talk about techniques if you want, or we can just ride and go and find a coffee shop, whatever you like. But don't think you've got to be expert to be able to ride a bike. And don't believe everything you see on YouTube either, because a lot of it's edited. Remind yourself that person's probably fallen off 40 times before they got the one good video edit. So put it in perspective.
Yeah. That is a very, very good reminder. Thank you, Mary. And I've got one kind of last question, because I know it's a little bit contentious, but I'm wondering, of your current bikes, I know you've got a big fast super bike and you've got an adventure bike, you've got a dirt bike. Do you name your bikes? And if so, how do you name them?
Oh, yes. I do name them. Yes, I do. I've lost count of how many bikes I've had from my very first bike, but at one time I can claim that this household had 13 bikes in the shed. I know people who have more, so it's a modest number. So every bike I've owned, I think, apart from one or two maybe, has had a name. And I name them generally by maybe looking at the bike and seeing what kind of character it sort of gives me. Sometimes they're named boy names, sometimes girl names, just sometimes that sort of just seems to resonate right with the bike.
Some of them just feel, yeah.
And so if you're querying the names, I've had some interesting ones, such as my previous BMW adventure bike was known as Dunno. And people said, what the heck is Dunno? I go, it's Dunno where my next adventure is. And they said, oh, that's clever. I said, so he's known as Dunno. And he was a boy because he was orange and he looked boyish. The new BMW, which is a newer model, is all black and silver. And it's a girl, definitely a girl. And so because she was black and silver, I said, oh, she reminds me of the beautiful moon. So she got named Luna. So like the moon. And the fancy red one, the super bike, the Ducati, well, she's red. And what did she think of? Made me think of straight away? Supergirl. Because she flies. And she really flies. So it was the red cape. And they went, yes, she's Supergirl. So they're the sort of names that I sort of come up with. And I've come up with some quite comical ones, and other ones are very, I tried not to do the ordinary names. I think of something different. But I definitely name all my bikes. And even the little dirt bike's got a name. I think he's called Pedro. Now, I suppose you're going to say, why Pedro? Named after Danny Pedrosa, who used to be a MotoGP racer, and he was pint size. So he was a little guy. Pedro's only a 250, and he's a Honda, and that's what Danny Pedrosa used to ride. So that's how I come around my names. Yes. Luna, Supergirl, and Pedro.
Fantastic. Thank you. And lastly, is there anything else that you would like to say or share with our listeners?
I think I want girls to feel encouraged all the time about their riding. They can ride a motorcycle. There is no such thing as thinking it's got to be talent. You learn it. You can learn it. It's like anything. You can learn to drive a car. You can learn to use a power tool. You can ride a lawnmower. If you can ride a lawnmower and change that, you can ride a motorbike, that sort of thing. It's just mechanical. It's the mechanical thing. Do not be afraid of the bike. Believe in yourself. That's the things I really would like them to know. And it doesn't matter what size CC bike you've got. It's about enjoying your ride. Definitely.
Oh, fantastic, Mary. That is a wonderful way to wrap up. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And for if you are in South Australia, then please head to Facebook and look for Women2Wheels SA and join the group, join the rides, get a part of it, start sharing and learning and listening. There are some wonderful conversations and opportunities to ride and learn with each other available in that group. group. And also a big shout out to the other group admin, Tony Barwick, who couldn't be here with us today, but also very grateful for all of her work alongside you, Mary, in bringing that group to the community. Thank you so much for your time.
Very much. A big thank you to you too for wanting to give us this opportunity to talk about Women2Wheels. So fantastic. Thank you.
No worries. All righty. Thank you so much.
Well, that was excellent. And thanks once again to Mary for her time, and also to Tony Barwick, who's one of the other administrators of Women2Wheels SA, for her efforts with the group as well.
Absolutely. So some takeaways from this, and in particular from the conversation with Mary, for finding community, finding that connection. I think a big thing is the importance of social media. It's a really great option. And also considering the difference between local groups and national groups. They might offer different things. To secondly, kind of think about where motorcyclists gather. And go to where other people might be, which seems kind of obvious, but yeah, it's worth saying. So this might be your local bike store, either where you buy your bike, where you get a bike serviced, where you buy your gear. And as Mary suggested, keeping an eye out if you're doing things like licenses or training, whether there are options to meet people there, as well as potentially formal membership clubs and things like that. I think one of the interesting things coming out of the interview with Mary was just thinking about the different aspects to community. So thinking about what actually you might want to get out of meeting and networking with other people, and acknowledging that there might be different places to go to get that. And a big part of that is that community and connection can help with feeling alone. And when we are connected with others, that can help us increase our confidence, keep us riding. And so whether that's kind of finding people to go on rides with, to learn from, to share experiences with, or to share tips about bikes or gear, or to help buy those things. There are multiple different things you can get out of building a community and network and friends who are motorcyclists. And I think the favorite thing that Mary said towards the end then, which is really, really important, that it's not about the size or the type of bike you ride. It's all about enjoying your ride. Yep,
absolutely. I could not agree more. And anybody that's shaming anyone for the kind of bike that they ride or in whatever else, then I'd argue that are they proper motorcyclists? Because a proper motorcyclist just loves things with two wheels.
Exactly.
Whatever it is. Just, two wheels good, four wheels bad. But anyway, thank you so much, Kay. Now, on to the next episode, a serious one next episode, theft and how to prevent it, including a very close and heartfelt story that Kahiba will be sharing with us if she's ready for it.
I feel like I keep sharing all of the stories, but then it seems like all of the things keep happening. So, dear listener, please learn from the mistakes that I have made. I'm excited to share this so that hopefully no one else has the same experience.
And for everybody else, I made all those mistakes too. It's just that they were so long ago that I cannot remember when they happened, but I guarantee you they all did. Benefits of old age, can't remember much.
Righto. And on that note, until next time, please ride safe and have fun. Beyond the Pillion is brought to you by Kahiwa Sabai and Mark Drexler, and with the support of Woman Moto, the online magazine for women motorcyclists. Go to womenmoto.com. If you liked today's episode, please remember to rate, review and subscribe, and tell a friend. It helps others find the podcast.